So David wrote in on Patreon. He said, "Hey, Zach, what are your thoughts on college athletes opting out of bowl games? I saw what Desmond Howard said about it, and he said opted out players have essentially, quote, lost their love for the game. And others have also said that players nowadays are just, quote, chasing the bag, too, instead of playing out the whole year. Then on the flip side, Matt Corral's current situation showed the exact reason why players do decide to opt out. I'm really curious what you think of all this, and I also really appreciate you opening up about your personal life. I have been learning quite a bit from you. Thanks. Thank you, David. So in case you didn't watch it, during the Sugar Bowl, I believe, it was Ole Miss against Baylor. The Ole Miss quarterback, Mississippi quarterback, Matt Corral, a future potential first-round pick. Arguably, some people think he's the best quarterback in the entire NFL draft. I think Malik Willis is, but that's a debate for another day. Matt Corral had a really bad injury to his knee, and there are some early reports that it might be just a knee sprain or an ankle sprain. It could be okay. I'm not really sure what it is. I actually waited. I was going to record about this on Saturday night after the game, and I'm like, if I wait to record about this, we might know what the injury is, completely by then. As of right now, as of recording time, I don't know. It's early on Monday morning, and I still don't know what the injury is. But here's my take on all this, man. First of all, it's totally okay to opt out of bowl games. Nobody opts out of a playoff game. So quarterbacks especially don't want to opt out of a bowl game because they think it gives a bad look and they're not invested and it's a bad leadership move or something like that. But bowl games don't matter. They're basically as meaningless as a NFL preseason game. They make the school a ton of money, but watching Matt Corral get carted off is in one sense horrible, but it's also actually kind of a blessing in disguise for players because now they always have an example they can point to and say, we don't want to be Matt Corral. Potentially hurt our draft stock and hurt our career because we played in a meaningless bowl game. And here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, I don't love the game. No. Skipping a game that isn't in your best interest doesn't mean you don't love football. In fact, you could argue it's because you want to play longer. If you really want to you can frame the argument however you want. Here's what I would say most importantly. Where does your loyalty lie? Do you owe anything to your university? Or do you owe more to your future kids, your parents, yourself? Who cares what a university? You're done. You're going to the NFL, man. Take care of yourself, of course. And because you skip a meaningless bowl game, I'll tell you what, nobody I know in the NFL is losing an ounce of thought because you skip a bowl game. It's just silly to me. And we see these old hats it's an old mindset. I don't know what it is. Bowl games are bad anyway. Anything we can do to get rid of bowl games, I'm all in favor for. And if you're a player who is having a hard time, should I play? Should I not? I just encourage you, man, you owe nothing to your college team. And some people might play in the bowl game because it's an opportunity for them to get exposure and show the world what they can do. And that makes total sense. But if you're a first-round pick, you're locked and you're going to some bowl game that isn't a college football playoff game, even the Rose Bowl, opt out. Who cares? If you're a first-round pick, take care of yourself because you owe way more to your family, your kids, and yourself than you do your university. And I am all for players opting out of bowl games. They don't matter. I think they're going to go away in the next couple of years anyway. And it's so sad. They kept showing these clips of Matt Corral's face as he's just on the sideline, devastated, potentially with I don't know what it is. I was like, is it a torn ACL? I don't know. It's just a horrible thought. And it looks like it might be, I'm hoping it's a sprained ankle, but man, I have no problem at all with a player like Matt Corral, who's going to be a first-round pick, not playing in this bowl game. Kenny Pickett skipped the bowl game. It's okay, man. You got to put yourself first. And if anything, the Matt Corral lesson is that, and it's something we can point to for years, don't be like Matt Corral, because if you're a first-round pick and you're locked as a first-round pick, don't risk your future. And also hurting your entire football career for a meaningless game. And, a player I think Jackson Smith-Njigba, the Ohio State receiver, put his name on the map. He made a dominating statement against Utah with 347 yards, 15 catches, 3 touchdowns. If you want to play in the Rose Bowl because you want to elevate your draft stock, Absolutely. It's a great opportunity. But if you already have a secure position in the NFL draft and you don't need to elevate your stock anymore, what are you doing, man? Like, take care of your family, take care of yourself. And that's not being responsible and taking care of yourself does not mean you don't love football. It's completely, they're separate issues. And I don't know how you could possibly watch a guy, Kenny Pickett, the Pittsburgh quarterback, didn't play in the bowl game. You think Kenny Pickett doesn't love football? Like, that take from Desmond Howard is so absurd and silly. These guys work all the time, constantly. Dude, nobody really, Johnny Manziel maybe, but nobody plays the way Kenny Pickett does or Matt Corral does with all this level of attention to detail and preparation and work ethic and leadership and doesn't love the game. Like, come on, get out of here. That's absurd to me. And I just think it's people who are very removed from playing that, you know. Now, here's one thing. As a person who doesn't play anymore, I got a message from someone on Instagram. They wanted me to talk about this, and a great call. The weird reality here is that it actually might help Matt Corral. Instead of going to a bad football team early in the first round, he might actually fall in the draft and go to a better football team that's more equipped to win. So there might be a silver lining in it, which is that if his draft stock does get hurt, he can fall in the draft to a better football team. Kind of like, you know, I don't know why Mac Jones fell in the draft because he's not as talented, I guess. But you go to a team like the Patriots. Denver, by the way, is sitting there ready to win. They hopefully get a new coach, and Matt Corral goes there in Denver. That could be fun. I'm just saying, like, if Matt Corral, you know, there's this, where did I see it? Unfortunately, I think it was actually, and I'm rambling now, but who's the guy? Dan Bilzerian. I can't believe I'm about to talk about this on the show. Dan Bilzerian was on Joe Rogan. I saw a clip of it on TikTok the other day. It actually was YouTube Shorts. Told the story about the Chinese farmer and how, you know, I'm going to butcher it. The Chinese farmer had his horse run away, and everyone in the village said, "Oh, that's really bad." And he said, "Maybe." And the horse came back to the farm with 7 other wild horses. And so everyone said, "Oh, that's really good. You got a bunch of horses now." And the farmer said, "Maybe." And then the next day, the farmer's son took one of the wild horses out to ride and, you know, to break him in. And the son broke his leg. And everyone in the village said, "Oh, that's horrible. Your horse, you know, one of your new horses broke your son's leg." Well, the next day, someone from the military came and said, "Hey, you know, we're drafting people in the military." And his son didn't have to go to the military because his leg was broken. He actually missed out on a potential opportunity to lose his life. And so the point of that story is that, and it's exactly what Dan Brazilian said. I'm literally like stealing that entire segment from him. But he said, like, look, man, we never really know how things are going to play out in life. Like, and how insane is it that I'm taking a story from Dan Bilzerian? Like, I don't even like the guy. But point is that he is right, though, that you never know how something appears compared to what it actually could be. Like, good stuff happens in our life every day, and you're not going to know till you see it play out. And maybe Matt Corral getting hurt in the Sugar Bowl is the best thing that ever happened to him because he falls to a really good football team in the draft and becomes their franchise quarterback and wins a lot of games and has a great career. Like, so you have to be open to the possibility that when something, quote, bad happens, you can turn it into good. And there is a silver lining, and I think it could be that Matt Corral will fall farther in the draft. But let's be clear about one thing, David. It's totally fine for players to opt out of their bowl games, which I have no respect for, and I have no respect for the bowl games. I totally respect people. You know how much, by the way, it takes guts to say I'm not going to play. Like, you're going to get criticized and all this stuff, and it kind of reminds me of, you know, I called off my engagement recently, and I would argue that it takes a lot of guts to call off an engagement and this big obligation and this thing that everyone's excited about in your family, and people are buying dresses and stuff, and I had to do what was right for me, even if a lot of people didn't understand and kind of bear the weight of that and the skepticism and criticism I'm going to get for that. And a college football player who doesn't play in their bowl game is going to hear it, and they're going to get criticized. But you got to do what's best for you. Who cares what other people think as long as you're doing what you know is best for yourself? And I think it would have been better for Matt Corral's future to not play in the bowl game. But again, let's go back to that story of the Chinese farmer. You know, he didn't know that breaking his leg was actually a good thing. Losing your horse is a good thing because it brought you more horses, right? You never know when something that seems really bad ends up having a silver lining and being actually something really good for your future.